Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Beach Lifestyle radio show on the Simply G radio network. Again, go to simplyg.com to check out more information on GJ Reynolds, the playful and powerful warrior, or you can go to my website, totaltutor.net, Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley. And I'm so excited first to introduce my co-host, GJ Reynolds, because we have a big-time guest today, don't we, GJ?
Very much so, Neil, and I'm excited to be interviewing him. And when I say his name, everybody will know exactly who he is. And he's definitely the epitome of anti-aging, and he's aged very well. And he's been known to be in many movies and television shows. And I was actually just watching Doc Hollywood, and I saw him playing the doctor out in Hollywood, in Beverly Hills. So you probably remember that role. But, without further ado, he's done a lot of great things, and he's one heck of a person. And please welcome to the show, George Hamilton. How you doing, George?
I'm all right. I mean, I like the idea that I've aged well. I really know what that's like. So like being in Benihana's or Ruth Chris Steakhouse, don't you think? He's aged well.
Well, GJ is aged well as well, and we'll see where G is going to be at your age, George. GJ is 32 with 20 years experience, right, GJ? And he's in the best shape of his life, so he sees how important looking great, especially the part, and he shares his time in L.A. So, George, you know that drill. You gotta look the part in L.A., don't you?
Well, I guess so, but I've always felt that the one thing that I have that I've used as my secret weapon is that I didn't think I was the best actor, and I may not be the one to get the job, but if I live long enough, I may win by default.
Well, you'll have the opportunities at every different acting gig possible. You've played from a young guy all the way to up to a senior citizen. So
the whole industry. If you just keep in the game.
Exactly, and stay the course that GJ says in his book all the time. Well, first of all, question, George, did you always want to be an actor? I mean, we're going really way back, but that question, has this been always the entertainment field's what you wanted to be in?
No, I didn't want to be an actor. I didn't have any desire to be an actor, but my whole family did. And I kind of saw that was the prize they wanted in the family, and I thought, well, it must be important if they want it. And then when I got to high school, I just took a class in theater arts because it seemed easier than doing math. And I went to the state capital in Florida where I was going to school at the time, and I competed and won the competition. So next year I thought, well, I have one more subject before I get out of school to have to learn because I was one credit behind. I thought, I'll just go out to California and get that out of my system, then come back and go to school. Well, I came out and I got into movies, and I didn't have any idea what I was doing, but I never went back to school, and I never had to take math again.
And it's very interesting, as I'll tell GJ about this in a lot of ways, that a lot of actors I've interviewed, a lot of athletes I've interviewed, GJ, that play at a high level, they perform at a high level, G, they end up not wanting to do this when they're kids. Isn't that interesting, G?
Well, I was thinking the exact same thing. A lot of them, they get into it because they see it as an easier path, and like you said, versus physical work or some subject in school. And then there's also, because a lot of the actresses were ladies, and they were saying, hey, if that's where the girls are going to be, that's where I'm going to go. So I've seen that.
Well, I think that works for a little while. That works for your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. But when you get up into the 70s, you really have to like this game because it's a hard game. And I think that's the way it is in anybody's work. I think the trick is to love what you do. And then you'll do anything for it. You'll stay up as late as you have to do. Get up as early as you have to. Whatever it needs. I didn't really want to do any of it. I just didn't want to embarrass myself, and I was working with pretty good people. And I was in awe of the people I was with. Robert Mitchum, I mean, I never knew when he was asleep or awake. I just knew the words were coming at him. And sometimes he'd say, I know the words, but I'm just too drunk to say them. So I just loved being in this business. You met the most incredible people. And it was never dull. And it was like they said about flying. It's hours of boredom interrupted by moments of sheer panic. Getting ready for it and getting your wardrobe and your makeup and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff is kind of boring after you do that a few thousand times. But the actual climbing in the saddle and going for it, another game.
Quite interesting, and I think that's so important in a lot of ways. When did you know this was going to be your career? Right after that big award that you saw, and then you moved to Hollywood, is that when you said, hey, I don't have to go back to school again? I'm going to stick to this?
You know, it's like you get in the plane and you start flying, and then you look down and you're past the point of no return. That's when you know that. That's what you do. Because if you don't, that's all you do. You got to make a decision real quick. After you've spent your bullet there, what you going to do? And I started out with, well, what's the big deal here? And then I had a bag packed, and I thought the worst they can do is fire me, and I go home. And every time I thought I was going to go home, there'd be another picture or another location or somewhere. And the years just went on by, and I thought, boy, this is like a never-ending, holiday. But the problem is you have to have the temperament to not know where your next job is coming from. If you have that, you have a homeless attitude, you can do very well because you're not trying to get anybody to commit to anything. You're just trying to commit to the lines yourself. That's about it. And I just found it. I looked down and I looked at the speedometer and I thought, damn, I've spent 30 years at this now at that time. And I have, now it's over 50-something, maybe close to 60. I can't believe it. And people don't have any idea until they're in whatever it is they're in that that's all they're going to do. They better be damn good at it. You better take a night course or whatever you do in the day because you're going to be doing it for a long time. If you hate it, well, that's just the worst way to go. And, guys like Jack Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, I mean, he didn't want to be president. He wasn't thinking of that. He was probably thinking about girls or something, but his brother was supposed to be president. Sometimes it's the easier ride, the guy with the smile on his face and looks up and says, well, doesn't everyone? It's one thing to be totally dedicated to what you do and keep your, foot down and going for it, but there's a light touch to success, and that is, I can take it or I can leave it. It isn't going to break me. It isn't going to make me. It's just fun, and this is what I do. You attract in life very much what you give out. And if you want something, you pretty well have to almost have the attitude you've got it already. Now, that's kind of a strange thing to say, but I've often needed something, and it would be the last thing I'd indicate to whomever I was going to get it from.
What do you think of that, G? What George just said?
Well, George just said a lot of great things, and being an entrepreneur, I love each of those messages that you just said, and one that, backing up a little bit, is, having that homeless mindset. And one of the things that I've always thought of is, okay, what's the worst case here? Okay, here's where I was before I started. Well, here's where I'm at. What's the worst case? Okay, go back to where I started. And it sounds like that's, a great way of living life, whether you're acting or in business, and you've been able to do that. And I spent a lot of time in L.A. and Hollywood, and got some acting friends and musicians, and you definitely have to have a special temperament to stay the course. And you've done a great job doing that. And I know you've played a lot of roles, and a lot of them come to mind. And when I was looking at all the roles that you played, I was just like, yeah, I remember that one. I remember that one. So do you have a favorite role that you actually played, in all the years that you've been in Hollywood?
Well, the thing is that I got kind of typecast right away. I was this guy that thought, yachts and good-looking girls, and I don't know how they got that attitude, but they did. And so I kind of played into that. I thought, well, why not? And it's a pretty easy habit to support. I didn't want any drugs. I just wanted cars and girls. So they were happy to allow me to do that in movies and write scripts for it and what have you. But it wasn't enough. And I started trying to do things that were beyond my scope, I played as faith eater in a movie, and then next thing I knew, I was playing Evil Knievel, and then Hank Williams and Moss Hart and Zorro and Dracula. I mean, I think I think most people think, that I'm kind of one-dimensional, but I don't think they really put all those people together. If anything, I've got a lot of split personalities, but I'm not one-dimensional. I just play a one-dimensional character when I play me, because I took me out one day. I just went upstairs and saw the wardrobe department in the gym and thought, God, that suit's good looking. He said, well, that's Cary Grant's suit. I said, oh, wow. And then I felt the suit and looked at it, and I said, that's the suit I want, because it makes you look important. It makes you look good. And the minute I got the suit on, I had to tip. And the minute I had to tip, I'd charge more money, and the studio paid me more. It's just the way life goes. So whatever it is you want, go for it, because life will support your habit. It's ready to do it. You've got to be able to want to believe in yourself and believe you can do it. You can't back off and say, oh, I don't know, because it goes by too fast. Just ride that wave and see where it goes.
Completely agree, George. I think that since I again, been in the entertainment field versus a professional wrestler, now back in radio, you got to ride that ride. And where you see you're going to end up, no one knows. And 4 years I'll be in radio, George, in December, and I started out just education. Never thought I'd get to talk to people like you. And I've learned the craft from interviewing so many different people. And I just think that at one point I saw that I am a brand, that I am somebody that provides great information for great guests and to interview them in different ways. When did you know that you were a brand, and how did it evolve over time, especially to where you are today?
Well, knowing when you're a brand is when people see it en masse, and television gets that to you faster, because if you have a little some idiosyncrasy about you, something about you that can be mimicked or people can copy, you become, and you do that in television, but television was not what I was doing. I was doing it in movies, and I was moving around in movies. So for a long time, the only thing I was thought of was, well, I know he's on the beach, and he's in that picture where the boys are, and he's got a tan, and that's just what they got me for. So I was starting to become a brand of those kind of, kid movies in those days. There were Spring Vacation. But that all changes, and you change your brand several times in your life, or if you don't get out of the rut, you just keep making more of it. But they really need something. You need something that people can peg you with. It's a world where there's so much competition. It's not bad to be pegged with that, but you got to have the goods when you get the job to go beyond that. And I think a lot of people figure, okay, I'm a failure. Well, failure is one of the best things in the world, because it's the only time you get a lesson. You don't get lessons from success. You get lessons from failure. And the more failures you have, it gives you a track of what to do and what not to do, and depending on how determined you are to be successful, you'll get at it again. And when you do, you won't fail that next time. It's just the way life is. And for me, I've been upside down, out, and in, and over and under, and it's made me laugh that people look at it as a failure. I mean, it's a failure if you don't co-create your success. You have to get out of bed first. You have to go and do something. It doesn't matter even if it's wrong, but do something. Don't sit there and hope that it comes to you. You attract it by the energy you put out, and that's just the way it is. And I think anybody who's been an alcoholic or a drug addict will know that one. I haven't been, but I've known a lot of them, and they all realize that they just got to put that one foot in front of the other. Even when you think you're down and out, it's all over. You cannot imagine how the deal of those cards can change you in a second. I've waited many times thinking, give me a sign, any kind of sign, except loser. I just don't want that sign. Give me any sign that I'm going to pull at it. And all of a sudden, bam, I pulled to an inside straight. And it's amazing. I'm overwhelmed by how great life is and how you should not have any sense of failure or any sense of fear about it, because it is all good for you. And we learn by it. Even the worst of things make us into people we would never know.
It's amazing, GJ, how much George reminds me of you. And GJ has a lot of your qualities as an entrepreneur. He sees his brand in his certain ways. He never gives up, always stays the course. He's had his ups and downs to the success he's been able to attain as well, GJ. Isn't that correct?
Boy, yes, and I was just thinking about exactly everything George is saying. I said I'm in so much alignment, and I look at every failure as definitely what you just said, a lesson to learn from. And the only time I see anybody actually truly fails is if they never choose to get up. And obviously, and through life, we're always going to have different ups and downs, and it's what you do when you're down. And I look at the hardest times of my life and probably the worst times of my life, and times I definitely, I'm glad that they're behind me, have been the catalyst of what's turned out to be the next best thing for me and the next best learning experience. And I've been able to draw upon that. And then, a lot of times I see people who are struggling that, they feel like they're the only one in the world that's at that point. And I see when somebody shares those tough times and are vulnerable and sharing that, how much of a catalyst that can be to help other people. And that's sort of what I've done. And I always use that event. Go ahead.
That's right. No, you finish, please.
Well, you're the star of the show.
Well, it doesn't matter. I can come back.
and we look forward to that.
But here's the thing. The thing is, I think that little roommate we have in our heads, whoever that guy is that lives up in our heads and says you can't make it, this is going to be bad, or you shouldn't do that, that's the real enemy, because that's the guy that we invent or co-invent so many stupid things that we think are going to happen to us that never happen to us. And you get to a point where you feel like, oh, God, I don't know if I can get through this. Get through what? Nothing's happened. It's all in your mind. So many people come out with a negative way of looking at life or a fear of something bad's going to happen, albeit maybe from their childhood or other things. That's what you got to stop doing. You got to shut that guy down and say, yes, we can, and I'm going to do it, and I'll get it done. Because just with that attitude and that shift, all the tools you need come along.
George, I can see why you stayed the course. That's why you're still acting and you're still working more than some kids that are 18 years old. So when we get back, we're going to find out the latest projects of George Hamilton. Again, we could talk to him for hours, and we only get 2 segments with him, but we hope to have him back on another time to promote something else. But you're listening to the Beach Lifestyle Radio Show on the Simply G Media Network, and we'll be back in just a moment. We're back to the Beach Lifestyle Radio Show on the Simply G Media Network. Again, you can go to simplyg.com. That's simplyg.com, and check out all the information on G.J. Reynolds, the playful and powerful warrior. And you can purchase his book and learn about all the cool things he's doing. And we're with celebrity George Hamilton. And I'm just telling you, George, I would have an interview alone just talking about your next roles and all your cool things that are going on. But it was very interesting what G said off air that G should share for our audience out there, because ultimately what you're able to share today, George, is something that GJ hears all the time, don't you, G, from one of your mentors?
Right. Well, as I was sharing off air, Coach Del Brown has shared with me many times, a lot of the things that George is sharing here, and it's just refreshing to hear the life messages and the messages that George has shared today, and there's been a handful of them, are applicable in one's life, regardless of what your career is, what your endeavor is, or what your education is, and where you're at in life. And so George, it's just been refreshing, and I'm glad I got a bunch of goosebumps today, and it's been a very enjoyable interview. So, let's get back to, some of the things that you're doing, and you got free reign to elaborate as much as you want. Obviously you're still working and doing some great things, and we know you just filmed a CVS commercial, and, why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and when's that going to air, and where people can find information about it?
The CVS commercial's on air now with Nick Conti and Joan Rivers, and I just finished 2 movies, which are one is I play a fellow who has Alzheimer's and thinks he's Dean Martin. It's just a wonderful, wonderful role, and it's fun, and it's not. It's sad, but not sad. It's you get a laugh with it, and you get a chill with it. So then I played a corrupt senator with Treat Williams in another movie it just finished, and I'm doing 2 different documentaries. The 2 movies, one was called Blue Skies, and the other one's called Catatonic. And why they call it Catatonic Blues, I don't know, just to make it difficult. But the 2 documentaries, I'm doing one about Sean Flynn, who was Errol Flynn's son, who disappeared in Vietnam years ago, and who was a combat photographer, and the other is about Evel Knievel. And I made the movie about Evel, produced it, and played Evel, and this is a documentary about Evel Knievel. So that sort of keeps me busy. And I'm working on a major TV show, which I'll know in maybe 3-4 days whether I'll be on TV next year. And if I am, I'll be on a series, and it'll be a very interesting role. The thing about all of that is that I work for things, and then I let them go, and I let them tell me what's best, and in the order they should come to me, not because I think they should be. Because, again, going back to the universe, it knows it's here to support us. You didn't put a tree here and expect it to change place to live, and it's got all the nutrients and things it needs. You have everything in nature to support nature. The problem is we keep ruining it and messing it up. So I started realizing that most of the diseases, and what I really, you asked me earlier, what did I want to do when I started out, or did I always want to be an actor? No, I wanted to be a doctor. My whole family were doctors. But when I started to realize that medicine was getting handicapped by education because they were really not allowing them to know more than what was in those few books that they had, and that we are really divinely supported. And I say divinely because there's got to be a power bigger than us. Otherwise, all this, they said we didn't. If we would have been born with doctors as our twins. Or we would have been ourselves doctors, but we wouldn't have had to have doctors. And the doctors now are thinking perhaps that what they learned in school is going to get us healthy. No, most of the time it helps, but most of the times it's toxic. What we have in our food supply today is just disastrous. What we don't have is even worse. So what we get is no nutrition. We get macronutrients from carbohydrates and proteins and such, fats, but we don't get what we really need, which are micronutrients. Those are the things that are alive, and those are the things that curb your appetite and feed what it is you essentially need.
And GJ speaks of that all the time, especially by getting in the best shape of his life. He was out of shape, and his book soon will be coming out about his story because, George, what he was able to do was he challenged Dale Brown to see how many consecutive days he could work out. And he was the only person ever to beat Coach Brown. How many days did you work out? Have you worked out consecutively, GJ?
Well, I worked out exactly 610 straight days. We did 2 miles a day, and then I gave myself a day off. I still did the 2 miles, and I still do 2 miles every single day, and I just went over 750-some days and counting, and my goal is to get to 1,000, and then when I get to 1,000, then I'll reevaluate what the next goal is, and so I just keep chugging away, and I just know the day that I quit doing it that I can easily fall back, and it's just staying the course. And a lot of what your message has been today is definitely staying the course, and when you have challenges, get up and learn from what you're able to learn and move forward. And you're a true testament of that. And I'm motivated to go get my 2 miles done. As soon as we hang up and this interview, I'm going to go do my 2 miles.
Well, it's strange, but everybody says, well, I can't work out. I haven't got the time. You don't have to work out all day. You just have to work out every day.
Absolutely.
I know people overdo it, and you can see it in their faces. I mean, they're overdone it, so the body's just robbed all this nutrition from them because you see a lot of women that just spend most of the days on treadmills and stuff, and it's not all that great for them. It's a question of balance in your life. What do you do, TJ, in your program? You're obviously working here. Your brain's using power and calories to do, but what do you do to regenerate? I know that you'll get endorphins from your running and feeling good on that, but what do you really know that when you get feeling sort of run down, what do you do?
Well, I'd say there's 3 aspects to what I do. One is obviously exercise, definitely 30 minutes to an hour. and usually it's an hour. And one of the things I found out, I'm 52 years old. I say I'm 32 because I feel like I'm 32. And I'm on a sprinting program, and I actually train like athletes, and it's like, who would have ever thought? And I never would have thought. And my body just really likes it, and it's in a good environment where it's not hard on my knees or ankles. And then I actually have a health and wellness company. We have a 90-day health challenge, and we've got some great products. And I use those products. I've changed my diet over time to a very good diet, and everything you said about where our food is and where it is and where it isn't, it's exactly right. So I've modified my own personal diet. And then also, I listen to my body, and I know when I need to rest, and I know rest and recharge is important to, operate at a high performance level. And so those are the.
Well, I think you made a great point there in the sprinting. I think people thought for a long time that endurance was the way to go, and you can see a lot of people who are long distance runners. They don't have much muscle tone. They can be pretty traumatized by their distance. The thing about it, when you sprint, you use maximum and then back off. Maximum, and that's what really exercise for the heart is about, is to get it so that in cases of problems, the heart can withstand it. And I think there's programs like PACE and all, these different programs which you sprint. And that's what I'm just getting into now at this point. I've had some injuries over the years. I'm 74. And so I ran on cement 5 miles a day every day, and that did not help me. My back got punished from it. My knee got punished. Then I backed off of that, and I started sprinting and doing all my vitamins and stretching. Stretching is so important. I think a lot of people think when you're young, you don't think about stretching. My generation didn't. But my God, when you get older and let's talk about inflammation. That's our biggest problem. Is that inflammation is a precursor of heart disease as well as cancer, and the mixture of things that you eat can cause. If you got old injuries, especially people who are warriors and have had a few injuries, you can get osteoarthritis when you get older. So you have to balance your diet to get off of those acidic things that create that environment of inflammation to continue on exercising, or you can't, or you just rust out and you can't exercise. So it's a tempering as you get older of keeping a certain program and at the same time rest, and that's where you get a few good gray hairs to tell you which to do, which don't to do, and then you take your macronutrients and your micronutrients. The micronutrients, the things that are missing in our soil, that's what is so important for people to understand. That's why I make the point of drinking youth infusion, because it's just a simple no-brainer. You put it in your water and you down it, and that's all you need. I used to take handfuls of pills, and I just thought, I can't take any more vitamin pills. It's starting to mess me up. The digestive stuff and the coatings and the binders on all that stuff. So I just have it now in a very simple form. I go out and I do my stretching as I get out of bed. I do an old-time exercise. I don't know if you ever heard of it. The old-timers would know it. It was the Canadian exercise. Do you remember those, the Canadian Air Force exercises? Ever hear of them?
I'm not sure exactly what it is. I'm sure I've probably seen it. I'm not sure by name.
Well, it was an exercise they used. The Canadian Air Force used. It was 11 minutes. That was it. And you ran in place. You did squats. You did push-ups. You did all sorts of bends and then to do it all in 11 minutes. Well, I thought nobody can do anything in 11 minutes. It didn't work. Well, you know what? I did it before I got out of bed. I mean, I just put my feet on the floor and I do it every day. It becomes a habit. So to do that, I feel great because, as you know, you get that first shot of an endorphin, and that's the beginning of it.
Exactly.
That's like having if you don't have that, you mope around, and the next thing you find yourself back in bed and then watching a TV show or something. The minute I have to go into the bathroom to take my shower, I do that before, and I feel great. Then I start realizing that everything I put in my body is going to make me feel good or bad today. in anabolic and catabolic state of food. I'm sure you know what that is. The anabolic is the food you take in, and then you start the catabolic, you start to use it for your supply. Well, when you start to take it in, if it's good stuff or bad stuff, you feel okay. But if it starts to perform badly for you, then you get that sense of depression and fatigue. If you get the kind of food that I get, which I'm sure you do now, you have a sense of lightness about it, not heaviness, and your body's not telling you, I am hungry, because the more minerals you have, the less hungry you have.
Absolutely, George. Well, we are running out of time, but I got two questions for you. One, what we say on this on the Beach Lifestyle radio show is, what is your 90-day challenge? What do you want to accomplish in your life, either in your health, your business, in the next 90 days? And lastly, where we can find information on you. Those two questions.
Okay, well, it's interesting. I don't have a website. I have a website where I have my Drink Youth Infusion, which is you can go to www.drink, like drink. I always use the word like Drink Youth Infusion, and you can go to that site and you can see me. But my own personal site, it's strange. I find that Facebook and all those places I run from a little bit, because they kind of triangulate you and they know where you are all the time. So I don't really like that. I don't know if you guys like it, but I don't like it. I don't like to go somewhere and find out someone who knows I'm coming.
well, I tell you, it was a blast, George. Love to have you back on, especially when you hear about the big announcement. And love to have you guys trade ideas to live, especially after 50, to be in the best shape of your lives, both of you, and continue to be so energetic. And I see 50-year-olds, George, that are GJ's age, that look like they're close to the grave. And you guys are a testament.
Right. Yeah.
You're
that's
a testament.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
You have to have a passion for everything, even what you put in your mouth and what you do in your life. The passion, and it's body, mind, and spirit. And if you just give in and acquiesce to all the problems and think, oh, my God, something bad's going to happen to me again today, you will get that. If, on the other hand, say, I don't know what's going to happen, but I will handle it.
Exactly.
Life will just part the ways for you.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for calling, George. We'll definitely have you back on, and best of luck.